The series begins in 2006 with a 16-year-old girl who appears neglected to the extent that her room is extremely messy. She wears headphones, disengaged from everything around her, sitting at her computer trying to create a personal profile on a photo-sharing website. After considerable effort, she succeeds and is overjoyed with her new account. While jumping around happily, her sister hears her from outside, mocking her curiosity about why she even wants the account, since she neither goes out nor takes pictures with anyone. It's clear she is used to such remarks from her family, so she remains unaffected and continues with what she was doing. She then writes a personal description on the site, careful to include appealing details about herself like her love for Paris, cats, and extensive travel. She also mentions her dream of becoming independent. All the while, her sister knocks on her door because it's her first day of high school, annoying her with the reminder, which makes her dream about the day she'll grow up and be independent. Fast forward 15 years, and she is 31, living independently as she had dreamed. However, she's not happy with her life because she feels she isn't doing anything meaningful. She wakes up to a panicked phone call from her mother, reminding her about her sister's wedding to a high school friend. Shows she's still as negligent as before, forgetting her commitments, so her mother repeatedly confirms she'll be there. Her mother, hearing the cat's voice, realizes she's still at home and scolds her. She excuses herself, saying there's no network, and hangs up, then worries about facing high school acquaintances at the wedding as they used to bully her, which makes her still despise them. Upon arriving at the wedding, she's upset by everything except the food, also fearing relatives might mock her for still being single. As expected, her aunts criticize her every move, mocking her single status, so she ignores them and goes to congratulate her sister. Her sister too mocks her for wearing the same dress as at her graduation and not even trying to buy a new one. At that moment, she realizes she hasn't shopped for new clothes for herself in about 10 years. Then she spots her bullying high school friends, including one named who is now married to her friend. She feels pity for her friend for enduring him. Another old classmate comes up to tease her about her lifestyle, but they are interrupted by another friend who was with them since high school and knows everything that happened. She greets him and hugs him, showing her admiration for him. Everyone then starts to share their news. He says that he has stopped playing music and is now working in the stock market. Since she has nothing new to share about her life, she excuses herself, claiming she needs to go to the bathroom, and leaves him. Afterwards, she meets her friend who tells her she quit playing handball because her husband didn't like it. She feels sorry for her friend, dislikes her husband even more. Shortly after coming out of the bathroom, she sees her husband standing close to another woman. She confronts him, threatens to expose him to her friend. However, he disregards all this, tries to approach her as well. At that moment, her friend sees them and is shocked. She defends herself and explains in detail what happened. He doesn't give her a chance. He loudly claims in front of everyone that she was the one trying to get close to him, that she was doing it just to attract attention like she used to. Her sister believes everything being said and starts arguing with her, accusing her of being selfish and only thinking about herself. At this time, she realizes all the guests are watching her. Some even start recording her with their phones. She breaks down and leaves. Later, she returns to her room and holds a photo of herself as a teenager, apologizing to herself for everything that has happened, wishing she could go back to those days. She remembers her photo blog and decides to look for it. With difficulty, she manages to remember her personal account name on the blog and is thrilled to find it still exists. She immerses herself in her high school photos, wishing she could go back to that age. Then she snaps out of it and is surprised to find herself back on her first day of high school at 16 and in her old room, shocked by what she is seeing. She assumes it must be a dream. Then her sister comes in to hurry her so they can go to school. Amidst all this, the only thing that makes her happy is that her father is still alive, and she tries to run after him, but he has already driven away. Mother reassures her that he is traveling, will be back within a week. The sisters then head to school on their first day of the school year. She is so shocked by everything that she is afraid to tell her sister for fear she won't believe her. Her sister wonders about her calmness and guesses she is afraid of the bullying she faces every year. As soon as they reach the school, her friends greet her. The three of them are afraid of the bullying they always face. They decide to hide in the library, while her friend chooses another hiding place. In the library, they meet a girl named Camila. After a while, they decide to leave the library to head to their class, but are surprised by a group of bullies waiting for them, consisting of 3 young men named Edward, Fabrice, and Joel. Given that her mindset is now that of a 31-year-old, she decides to change her past and confronts them for the first time. Speaking with utmost confidence, she loudly declares her self-assurance, their opinions no longer mattering to her. To further embarrass them, she mocks each one, likening them to something funny, which impresses everyone around her with her bravery, earning her applause. She continues, saying that when she grows up, she will be independent, living in a large apartment in a beautiful city far from here. Despite no evidence to her claims, they believe her, and her stature grows in their eyes. The bullies, sensing her confidence, become intimidated and decide to leave her alone. Amid her friend's admiration, she and her new friend Camila decide to go to a pharmacy to get their ears pierced, treating it as a fun activity since she's convinced it's just a dream. They also take a photo together, which she posts on her blog. However, she then wakes up, still in the same place, but back at the age of 31, wearing the same dress she wore to her sister's wedding. She suspects it was all a dream, but when she sees the photo with Camila and notices her ear piercings, she realizes it was real but can't understand how. Surprisingly, her friend Camila is standing in front of her, and she learns they have remained friends since that day. They go out to eat together, and she decides to tell her friend everything she experienced. Camila laughs, explaining that everything she described actually happened in the past. Later, when she returns home, she discovers that Camila is living with her, something that wasn't the case before her dream, confirming that it wasn't just a dream and that changes she made in the past have altered the present. When they arrive home, they meet a young man named Joel, who was a friend in school and is now living in the same building. Camila is happy and welcomes him, unlike her, who dislikes him from their high school days. She also notices that even the appearance of her house has changed, now much nicer than before, which excites her, and she eagerly examines it. Wanting to confirm whether it is reality or a dream, she repeats the steps she took earlier. She goes to her computer, opens her photo blog, then closes her eyes and drifts off. She wakes to find herself back at 16, screaming in shock, afraid she won't be able to return to her normal life. At that moment, her mother hears her and, thinking she is behaving this way because she's scared of being bullied, hugs her and reassures her that the day will go well. Then she starts getting ready for school, finding her old fashion taste unsatisfactory, especially after seeing future trends. After trying on several outfits, she chooses one and decides to wear it. On the way, she finds out that her sister is currently dating Douglas, who will be her husband in the future. She mocks her sister for staying with him all these years, although her sister doesn't understand and ignores the comment, letting it pass. When she reaches her classroom, she sits next to Carol. Out of concern for her friend, she decides to warn her about Edward and what he will do in the future. She tells her that he is not a respectable guy, that he will cheat on her multiple times in the future. Carol asks her with surprise how she knows all this. At that moment, she gets the idea to use her knowledge of the future to improve her friends' lives. The first thing she decides to do is to break up Carol and Edward so they don't end up marrying and ruining her life. She decides to enlist the help of Fabrice, Camila's brother, since he is Edward's closest friend. She tells them that she wants them to break up because Edward is not suitable for her, and says she is ready to do anything to end the relationship, even if it upsets Carol. Although Fabrice is one of the bullies and initially disliked her, he agrees to help her because he has become afraid of her since she confronted them. Fabrice says he will prepare a plan and tell her about it. Then Fabrice and Joel sit down with their friend Edward and ask him frankly what he wants from Carol. Edward says she is a beautiful girl who loves him, and that's what keeps him with her, even though he is unsure about his feelings towards her. On that day, Edward invites Carol to a party. Fabrice decides to seize the opportunity and arranges for another girl from the school, named Fernanda, to be there at the same time and place, convincing her that Edward is interested in her, that he asked him to arrange it. Fernanda is very happy and agrees. Fabrice did this because he feels sorry for Carol and wants to show her Edward's true nature. Since Edward generally likes girls, he is excited that another girl is coming to the party and is very enthusiastic about it. Afterward, Fabrice goes to explain the plan to her and reassures her that everything is set up and that their plan will definitely succeed. On that day, Carol is very excited about the party, to the point that she spends hours in front of the mirror preparing herself. Although she is the one who arranged everything, she's worried about her friend and tries to stop her from going. However, Carol is too excited to meet her boyfriend Edward. She insists on going to the party and leaves her behind. Then Carol goes to meet Edward in the street before they head to the party. However, she is shocked to find him standing close to her close friend Fernanda and trying to approach her. Carol collapses from the sight. While crossing the street, she is hit by a car and loses consciousness. Anita goes to the hospital to visit her. There, she discovers that Carol has broken her arm and won't be able to participate in the handball match. All her relatives are gathered around her, deeply affected by what happened. Nevertheless, they comfort Carol, emphasizing that her health is the most important thing, even if her boyfriend turned out to be unfaithful. Carol ignores all this and addresses Anita, asking her how she had previously described Edward as unfaithful, as if she knew something was going to happen. Anita denies knowing anything and quickly changes the subject. That night, Anita feels guilty, especially after what happened to her friend. She thinks about going back in time again to change what she did and fix her friend's life. After much thought, she finds no other solution but to actually try it. So she sits in front of her device and activates the same photo blog. But this time, her plan fails. She remains in the same time. She sits thinking about why she failed, but can't find the reason. The next day, Anita arrives at her school where Fabrice stops her. He threatens to tell everyone that she was the mastermind behind the plan unless she fulfills his request, which is to go out with her sister Louisa. He says they were dating before, but Louisa left him for Douglas. Anita reluctantly agrees and promises him that she will talk to her sister. At that moment, Joel, who has been paying attention to her, begins to feel that something about Anita has changed. He approaches her to talk and asks her outright how she knows things before they happen. Anita changes the subject and advises him to stay away from those boys if he wants a better future. Later, while sitting with her friends in the library, Camila notices Anita signaling to Fabrice and senses something strange between them, but Anita refuses to say anything. Afterwards, Anita goes to talk to her sister in the bathroom, tries to seize the opportunity to convince her to go out with Fabrice. Anita speaks highly of him, trying to entice her sister. However, Louisa shocks her by revealing that she had dated him before, but felt they were not suitable and broke up with him, refusing to disclose the real reason for their separation. Then, Louisa goes to play a truth game with her friends, and Anita decides to join them, planning to use the game to force her sister to go out with Fabrice. Anita eagerly awaits her turn, hoping to specifically ask Louisa. However, while they are playing, Fernanda, who was with Edward on the day of Carol's accident, bursts in. She is extremely angry after learning that everything that happened was orchestrated by Anita. She publicly accuses Anita of arranging all that happened to Carol, leading everyone to speculate that Anita acted out of jealousy towards Carol. All eyes turn to Anita, expecting her to justify herself, but she becomes very nervous and fails to defend herself. Since Anita cannot reveal the truth and feels too embarrassed among her peers, she quickly leaves the scene. Due to Enrique being the closest person to her, he manages to guess where she is and goes to sit with her. Feeling comfortable with him, Anita decides to confess everything she did. She tearfully explains that she didn't intend to ruin Carol's life, but was just trying to help her. Enrique is upset that she did all this without consulting him, especially since they are close friends. Anita apologizes, admitting they are indeed close friends, but in that particular situation, she didn't know what was right or wrong. While they are talking, Enrique receives a call for an important errand, but he refuses to go, wanting to stay with Anita until they resolve the issue. Meanwhile, Fernanda visits Carol in the hospital to apologize, explaining that what happened was beyond her control and that Anita had planned everything. One day, Fabrice goes to Anita's house to apologize as well. He says he never intended to reveal their plans to anyone, but Joel was the one who exposed them. Then, emotionally, Fabrice confesses that he truly loves Louisa and wishes she would love him back. He asks Anita to support her sister, help her make the right choice. For the first time, Anita feels she might have been unjust and wishes there was something she could do. At the same time, Enrique visits Carol in the hospital. Carol is devastated by what Anita did to her. Enrique tries to mend the situation by saying that Anita's intentions were good and that she just wanted to alert her to the truth, but despite everything, she didn't want to hurt her. That night, Louisa is standing in front of a mirror, trying on many dresses, which are gifts their father sent from abroad for Louisa's birthday. Anita also takes her dress, goes to her room to try it on. Although she doesn't like it much, she wears it simply because it's a gift from their father, whom she has missed for a long time and longs to see. Afterwards, Anita sits at her computer, starts looking at pictures of her friend Carol. She apologizes to her, deeply moved by what happened. Then, Anita closes her eyes and wakes up to find herself back in the future. This time, she discovers that many things have changed. For instance, Camila no longer lives with her, and Joel, their neighbor, has become a friend who frequently visits her at home. This time, Joel brings food over to eat together, but Anita is very nervous, especially since she doesn't fully understand the extent of their relationship. Joel talks about their friends and mentions that he recently stayed up late with Louisa and Douglas. He then shows Anita pictures of them together. From the photos, Anita learns that Carol and Enrique got married 5 years ago. Joel is surprised she doesn't remember, especially since she was at their wedding. He senses that she has changed, so he guesses she might be ill and leaves her alone. At this moment, Anita is very upset because Enrique had long harbored feelings for her, often hinting at this, and now she sees he has married her close friend. She enters her room and looks at a picture of her father, deeply moved. Curious about what exactly happened in the past to lead Enrique to leave her for her close friend, Anita decides to go back to the past again. She stares at the last photo she posted on the blog, and indeed, her plan succeeds. She returns to the past. Anita deduces the rules of time travel, understanding that if she wants to go back, she must stare at the last photo she posted and daydream about it. If she wants to return to the future, she must post a photo of herself from the past. For the first time, Anita is happy happy to be back in the past because firstly, she can meet and greet her father, and secondly, she can fix her relationship with Enrique, or at least understand what happened. She decides to start with her first task, greeting her father. Therefore, she stays in her room, refusing to leave until she can meet him. After a while, she hears her father's car, quickly runs down the stairs, and then rushes out to hug him emotionally. She talks to him with deep affection, telling him how much she missed him and how hard it was to live without him. Her father is puzzled by her behavior and guesses that she might be having problems at school. Then he enters the house to greet the rest of the family. Louisa seizes the opportunity of his arrival and begs him to fix the garden lights because she wants to have her birthday party there. Their father agrees to fix them. Feeling lonely, Anita decides to confide in her father about what she did to Carol, hoping for some advice. She tells him emotionally that she feels guilty and sad about losing her closest friend, yet she swears to her father that it was against her will. She really just wanted to protect her. Her father remains silent for a moment and then tells her that no one can change someone else's life. Therefore, she must focus on her own life and studies and let people learn from their mistakes. Anita takes her father's advice to heart and decides to follow it. The next day, Anita goes to her school where she notices something odd. All her friends are ignoring her to the extent that no one wants to sit with her. She deduces that the news of her fight with Fernanda has spread, causing everyone to dislike her. Anita sits alone, affected by the situation. After a while, Enrique sees her sitting sadly and decides to sit with her. He is the only one who sympathizes with her amid everyone else. Despite the major issue she is in, they avoid bringing it up and decide to talk about something different. Each of them talks about their dreams for the future. Anita enthusiastically shares that she wants to travel to Paris and live there independently. Enrique says that he loves music more than anything, yet everyone advises him to study something else because music alone cannot be a reliable source of income. After a long conversation among them, Anita invites him to go out together, attempting to mend their relationship, which seems to have soured in the future. Enrique apologizes and says he is going to visit Carol. After much hesitation, Anita decides to confront her problems, so she goes with him, hoping Carol might forgive her. But as soon as Carol sees her, she gets angry and says she never wants to speak to her again. Nor does she want to hear any excuses for what happened, because she still loves Edward even after what he did. At that moment, Anita is deeply affected and empathizes with her friend, who can't seem to forget someone like that. Therefore, she takes Carol's hand, apologizes for believing that only her opinion was right, and for insisting on implementing it even if it hurt her friend. While they are talking, they are surprised by Enrique, who starts playing an instrument. Anita notices that Carol is impressed by him, and for the first time, she tries not to be selfish. Therefore, she decides to forget him and help them get closer. She encourages Enrique on his talent by filming him playing the instrument with her camera. Later, Anita suggests that they all gather at Camila's house and spend the day there. There, she apologizes to Carol again. Carol is moved and decides to forgive her. Meanwhile, Louisa is at home, very stressed about arranging her birthday party. She had asked her mother to rely on her and let her prepare everything by herself, but even Douglas is not focused on her, keeps playing games. In the evening, Anita returns from outside. Feeling a sense of neglect towards everyone around her, she offers to help her sister. She advises her to try to be calmer since she is still young. There is no need for stress. Then, she also advises her to focus on her choices, hinting at Fabrice, but she can't tell her outright. The next day, the three bullies gather at the school. Fabrice sits there upset because he truly loves Louisa, but she is not reciprocating his feelings. Edward advises him to learn from him and do anything to make her change, suggesting that this is the only way she might come back to him. Fabrice is impressed by the advice and begins to consider it. Unlike Joel, who is disturbed by their approach and decides to leave them, leading the other two to mock him, especially since he has never been in a relationship yet considers himself knowledgeable about relationships. That night, Anita stays up in her room, talking to Camila via computer, showing her the latest photos she took with her camera. Camila is very impressed with her performance and says she will become a professional photographer in the future. While they are talking, Anita is surprised by a message from Joel. He admits that she was right, and that Fabrice and Edward will never change. He has finally realized that he is not like them and needs to distance himself from them. Thus, he asks Anita if they can be friends since he's now alone. Anita agrees, and they stay up all night talking. At the same time, Louisa decides to heed her sister's advice, so she agrees to go out with Fabrice, who has been persuading her for months. Fabrice is thrilled and asks her about her birthday party. He guesses that Douglas is helping her financially because he's a wealthy guy who can afford anything he wishes. Louisa interrupts, affected saying that Douglas is irresponsible and she's recently realized this. She also expresses her fear that their relationship might develop further because Douglas cannot handle responsibility. Despite Fabrice's joy at her words, he hides it not to upset her. Eventually, after much conversation, convinces Louisa to give their relationship another try. Meanwhile, Anita is still talking with Joel late into the night, feels comfortable talking with her, so he bluntly asks her how she knows things that haven't happened yet, as if she had traveled to the future. Anita becomes nervous and wants to end the conversation, but Joel doesn't give her a chance and continues speaking about currently reading on time travel and discovering that there are very easy ways anyone could use it. Anita gets even more nervous, decides to pull the plug on her device to make him think there was a technical failure. Anita is terrified that Joel might have discovered her secret, especially since his words were very pointed, as if hinting at her. The next day, Anita prepares for school and talks to herself aloud along the way to convince herself that Joel knows nothing, that it is all just her imagination. To calm herself further, she tells herself that it was just a coincidence. He surely brought up the topic because he was influenced by the book he is reading. As she is talking to herself, she is surprised by many messages from Joel asking to meet. Anita excuses herself, saying she's not free, and promises to meet him at Louisa's birthday party in the evening. Then, Anita goes to Camila's house to pick out party dresses together. They spend a great time trying on almost every outfit in her closet and taking pictures. For the first time, Anita feels truly talented in photography and decides that she wants to become a professional photographer when she grows up. At the same time, Carol is sitting with Enrique while he plays music. She suggests that he bring his instrument to the party and perform there, confident that people will be impressed by his performance. That evening, as the party begins, Anita sees Carol and Enrique entering together. Despite being the one who helped them get together, she feels jealous, keeps looking at Enrique with a sense of regret. Then, when the dancing starts, Anita notices Joel has arrived at the party and is looking for her. She tries to avoid him by dancing with Camila and pretending not to see him. Douglas presents Louisa with a diamond gift, which appears to be very expensive. However, Louisa is not happy because she has decided to break up with him, but chooses to postpone the discussion to avoid hurting him. At this moment, Fabrice, watching from a distance, is upset because he knows she loves him too, yet they can't be together. Anita feels his pain as it reminds her of herself. She goes to console. They talk for a while and then decide to dance together. Enrique sees them and looks hurt, still showing signs of love for her, which makes him feel jealous. Anita spends her time at the party alternating between dancing and taking photos, which has become her favorite hobby. Midway through the day, her mother informs her that her father has work and might come late, which upsets Anita. She goes to sit alone. However, she then hears her favorite song, which she hasn't danced to in over 15 years, and decides to ignore her sadness and dance. But at that moment, Joel sees her and insists they need to talk. Anita senses from his looks that he is attracted to her, so she bluntly tells him that they can never be in a relationship and nothing will ever happen between them. Joel feels embarrassed and leaves her alone. Meanwhile, Fabrice seizes the opportunity while Louisa is standing alone and gives her his gift. Because Louisa is afraid someone might see them, she keeps looking around nervously. Fabrice guesses that she didn't like the gift and feels disappointed. While they are talking, a loud disturbance comes from the party area. It's Edward fighting with Camila and hitting her. Fabrice rushes to defend his sister and beats Edward brutally. The guests are disturbed by Edward's behavior and decide to expel him from the party. After a while, the party returns to its normal atmosphere. During the fireworks display, Joel accidentally falls into the swimming pool. Anita runs to get him a towel and talks to him quietly so no one can tease him. She then tells Joel that she had been unfair to him and that he really is a kind person who cares about everyone around him. She then takes out her camera and snaps a photo of it to keep as a memory, and Joel becomes certain that she is hiding a big secret. During the birthday song, everyone gathers around Louisa as she blows out the candles, with Douglas standing next to her, singing along. Suddenly, Fabrice enters, visibly drunk and not fully conscious, and announces in front of everyone that he was out late with Louisa the previous night, and she wants to get back with him, but is still unsure about leaving Douglas. Everyone is shocked, especially Douglas, who decides to leave the party. Louisa enters her house, distraught. Her mother follows her and asks if what was said is true. Louisa bluntly states she doesn't want to end up like her mother, living in a small house to raise her children, which is why she got involved with Douglas even though she doesn't love him. The mother and daughter argue until Louisa leaves them and goes up to her room. At this time, their father arrives and tries to understand what's happening. He argues with their mother, who blames him for not even being able to attend his daughter's birthday party and always being busy. Anita runs to comfort her sister, but Louisa refuses her intervention. Anita talks to her through the door, reassuring her that her future life will be perfect and she will be very happy. However, Louisa isn't focused on this because she decides to pack her bags and run away from home. Indeed, she takes her bag, jumps from the balcony, and escapes. After a while, The party ends, and everyone goes home. Anita's father enters her room to sit with her, telling her that Louisa and their mother are both locking themselves away and refusing to come out. Although Anita is also upset with him, she can't resist her love for him. She hugs him and reassures him that she forgives him, telling him that she followed his advice and decided to focus on her future, ultimately deciding to become a professional photographer. Her father is very happy and kisses her to tidy up her room. Anita discovers he left his jacket behind and by chance finds a medical report inside it stating that her father has cancer, which explains why he will die shortly after this date. Deeply affected, Anita is distressed that he kept this secret from her. As she holds the jacket, her father returns to retrieve it. She gives it back to him and chooses not to confront him with what she has discovered. The next day, Anita wakes up and decides to have breakfast with her father to spend as much time with him as possible. She hesitates a bit and asks him if he is hiding something from her, but he refuses to say anything. He acts as if he doesn't understand. Anita tries to console herself, remembering her father's advice that she cannot change the future, that the best thing she can do is focus on her life. Afterwards, she sits at her computer, decides to post a photo with her friends, bids them farewell in the caption, and mentions how they have significantly influenced her. Then, Anita closes her eyes and travels to the future. This time, she finds herself in a strange, very large house resembling the house of her dreams. Inside, she finds many cameras, leading her to conclude that she has achieved her dream of becoming a professional photographer. Then, she looks at the magazines she has and is shocked to find her picture in one of the most famous magazines. Realizing she has become famous, suddenly, she hears someone else in the house and discovers that Douglas and Carol have gotten married and are coming to spend a couple of days with her. Carol thanks her for the hospitality and mentions that she is here specifically to prepare for the Olympics. Anita is happy that her friend has achieved her dream and is also happy in her marriage. Anita takes the opportunity to ask about Enrique. Carol laughs and reminds her jokingly that she is very close to him. She tells Anita that Enrique is now living in Paris, has become a famous musician there. While they are talking, Anita is surprised by a message from Camila, saying she is waiting for her. Anita also discovers that she now owns a luxurious car, much nicer than the one she had dreamed of long ago. She then goes to meet Camila, who has become a famous writer and achieved her dream to the extent that many people come to her, specifically for autographs. Anita congratulates her friend and greets Fabrice, who also seems happy with his life. Afterward, Anita goes to the house where she grew up and meets her mother, who welcomes her with open arms. Anita discovers that her sister Louisa left the house on her birthday and is now living independently. Anita feels that her mother and sister are in conflict, so she comforts her mother and assures her that these problems will surely be resolved. While they are talking, Anita receives a phone call from her assistant, who needs her urgently. She rushes back home and discovers that she has a flight soon and is traveling to Paris. She is very excited, sends a message to Enrique, informing him that she is coming too. As soon as she arrives in Paris, she is amazed by the scenery around her and is happy that she has finally achieved her dream of visiting her favorite country. Enrique is surprised by her joy, as this is not her first time here. They agree to meet the next day for breakfast. Enrique bids her goodbye because he has work. Anita decides to enjoy herself alone. She rents a bike and joyfully rides through the streets of Paris. She decides to call her sister to check on her, but Louisa does not answer. The next day, then you see Anita standing with her father, hugging him. She remembers his illness and death, and for the first time, she feels that she has accepted his death, despite her sadness. The next day, Anita goes to meet Enrique at a restaurant. It becomes clear that Enrique is also happy with his life there. They chat for a while, and then Enrique starts playing music in front of her. Afterwards, they stroll through the streets of Paris, admiring the historical landmarks. Meanwhile, Joel meets with Camila and tells her that he has arranged with Anita to meet up. He plans to use the opportunity to confess his love to her. At the same time, Enrique tells Anita about the concert he will be playing at that night and asks her to be there. Anita gets ready for the concert, and while getting dressed, she is surprised to find the word love written on her sneakers. She suspects Enrique is behind it since he used to do that, but she cannot be sure. At the concert, Anita enjoys the song and gets lost in her memories with Enrique. However, she is brought back to reality by a notification reminding her of her appointment with Joel. She ignores the message and focuses on the song instead. During this time, Joel is waiting for her. As soon as he goes online and sees pictures of her with Enrique, he deduces that she has traveled to Paris and becomes very angry. After the concert, Anita and Enrique go to sit on the roof of a tall building to watch the Eiffel Tower. For the first time, Enrique confesses that he loved her during their teenage years. Anita laughs and says she knew, but he interrupts her to continue his confession, saying that he still loves her. Then he moves closer and kisses her. They agree to meet the next morning to watch the sunrise together and then go sightseeing. The next morning, Anita wakes up to a call from her sister Louisa, who looks depressed and very upset with her life. She blames Anita for the advice she gave, which led her to leave Douglas. Now, Luisa is living unhappily without Douglas and without Fabrizio. Anita feels guilty and upset that she fixed her own life at the expense of her sister's. Therefore, she decides to go back in time one last time to fix her sister's life, especially after learning that her sister and mother have not spoken for years. Anita sits in front of her computer to open her blog, look at the pictures, and get lost in them. But something strange happens, and the blog doesn't work. This is because at the same time, Joel has managed to access her blog account password. To punish her for what she did, he decides to delete all her photos from the blog. Joel looks at the picture she took of him on the day of the concert and put on the blog, reminiscing about that day. Suddenly, Joel finds himself back at the age of 15, unintentionally and without understanding how it happened.